Hey folks, Philip here. Today I'm with
Hannah, and we're going to talk about stress fractures.
What are stress fractures?
Stress fractures are tiny cracks in the bone.
Stress fractures regularly occur in the weight-bearing bones of the body.
Typically, bones of the foot, tibia, and fibula.
Why do they occur?
Many different factors.
Overuse,
Improper footwear,
doing too much too soon. This can be doing 5 miles one week, 25 miles the next. Who can get stress fractures? Anyone can get stress fractures.
runners, dancers, and gymnasts. So women have a higher chance of getting stress fractures to men.
Women also deal with osteoporosis,
What are the symptoms?
swelling,
Pain.
tenderness in a specific spot.
Pain with activity that gets worse over time.
Pain is constant even with no activity.
I think I have a stress fracture. What can I do?
You can get an x-ray, but x-rays don't always show cracks in the bone.
Take time off, rest, ice, and resume activity slower.
Bone scans. The best and the quickest test is the MRI, but they are the most expensive. Also, there are a few tests you can do on yourself.
Doing a hop test on a single leg.
If you are unable to hop multiple times on the injured leg, most likely you have a stress fracture.
Alright, so I have a stress fracture. What is the recovery like?
Typically, one might have to use crutches.
A walking boot?
Sometimes a splint or a cast.
Surgery?
They can take several months to heal.
I have a stress fracture but still want to train.
There are many types of exercises you can do. Some of them are
Pool running, biking, rowing, swimming.
also you can lift, but not on the injured part. How can I prevent a stress fracture from occurring?
Wear proper shoes for the activity. Increase training gradually over several weeks.
Proper diet that contains calcium.
Try to train on surfaces that absorb shock. Cross-train so that one part of the body isn't always used.
Research on stress fractures.
Treadmill runners may have a decreased risk of stress fractures compared to road runners.
There is less tibial strain with treadmill running. Training surfaces may have an influence on stress fracture risk.
Female athletes who practice a weight control technique are at a higher risk for stress fractures.
Another study showed that distance runners with higher intakes of calcium,
Skim milk and dairy products reduce their risk of stress fractures. Leg braces help speed up recovery. Braced athletes can return to light activity about 14 days earlier.
compared to unbraced athletes, they could return to unrestricted activity 50 days earlier.
Neither of us have personally experienced a stress fracture, but we have a friend who has currently just gotten over one. She's going to tell you about her experiences.
Here's Maddie.
Hi, I'm Maddie. A year ago I found out I had a stress fracture in my lower right tibia. I had to take 3 months off and I still struggled with it during indoor track season. Finally, a year later, I have no pain there at all and I'm running 60 miles a week. I could still run on it, but I was told I couldn't because it was a possibility of it could break or it could not. So it was kind of the playing a game of whether to push it or to not. So that was the hardest thing for me. I didn't really want to listen, but I knew I had to.
Well, folks, that's all we have for you today.
If you want to read the articles that we used for our research, they are in the links below.
Thank you guys for watching.
And we hope you learned something new.
Ciao!